I stayed when living made sense, not because it was easy or bright, but because something inside me refused to give the dark the final ride. I woke up heavy, chest full of nights I carried like stones, yet I chose the ordinary miracle of breathing again. I didn't feel heroic, didn't feel brave, didn't feel like a story anyone would clap for. I just felt alive enough to know leaving would cost more than staying ever could. I stayed when pain was familiar, when quitting felt loud, when living felt plain and unfinished, like a sentence still waiting for a sound. Some morning survival felt logical,
like water in thirst,
like instinct instead of courage,
like my body knew
before my mind that staying was necessary. I didn't rise, I didn't shine, I simply chose to endure another day.
I didn't stay
For grand answers
for promises
I couldn't see.
I stayed because living
Even in small increments still made a little sense to me.
I stayed
When living made sense,
when the night didn't fully win.
when my heart argued quietly that this wasn't the end.
I stayed,
I didn't stay because I was healed or fearless or strong.
I stayed,
I stayed because something whispered, keep going on.
I stayed
When living made sense,
when the edge felt close but wrong.
when tomorrow still felt possible, even if the day felt long. I didn't soar, I didn't conquer, I didn't feel whole.
I stayed
When living made sense, and that in itself was a kind of victory. There were days when faith felt practical, not poetic or loud, when God felt like gravity instead of fireworks holding me down so I wouldn't drift into nothing. I didn't feel inspired, I didn't see purpose, I just honored that my body and breath were still capable of staying. I paid my dues in silence, showed up tired, went through motions I could barely muster, knowing my greatest achievement was just not disappearing. People romanticize hope as fireworks, like clarity arrives in explosions. Mine felt quieter, like routine, like brushing my teeth, like deciding one more time to not give up.
I stayed
Because life still had weight
because my name still meant something.
when it was spoken,
Cause my pulse argued that my story
wasn't done being written. I didn't feel holy, didn't feel whole. I just felt that staying was the truest thing I could do.
I stayed
When living made sense,
when giving up felt extreme.
when surviving felt more honest than chasing a dream.
I screamed,
I didn't stay because the pain was gone.
I stayed
When living made sense, and that was enough to keep the darkness at bay.
stayed when living made sense.
When hope didn't speak aloud,
When God whispered not yet.
and that was enough. I've learned there are seasons where staying is wisdom, not fear, where walking away would cost more than another year, where living doesn't feel beautiful, doesn't feel deserved, but it feels right. I wasn't chasing joy, wasn't hunting for peace, I was honoring that my life still had weight in me. I stayed for the small things, the taste of water, the quiet of morning, the way music could still find me when nothing else would. I stayed because grace was present in the ordinary, because God didn't rush me or demand perfection. He just held me in the simple act of remaining.
Some people leave when it hurts too much. Some stay when it stops making sense.
But I stayed when living still whispered enough, when my heart said not yet instead of this is the end. Staying doesn't mean I'm okay, it doesn't mean I'm healed, it doesn't mean I know the next step. Staying just means I survived the day. Sometimes that's the whole miracle. I stayed through unanswered prayers, through mornings I didn't recognize myself, through nights when nothing felt holy or safe. And still something steady kept me anchored inside. Not joy, not confidence, not triumph, just a quiet refusal to vanish into the dark. I stopped romanticizing escape and started respecting breath. I saw survival as sacred, not lesser. I stayed because God didn't need me certain or loud. He just got me practice reading still there. I stayed where living made it hurt. Some people leave when it hurts too much. Some stay when it stops making sense. But I stayed when living still whispered enough, when my heart said not yet instead of this is the end. Staying doesn't mean I'm okay, it doesn't mean I'm healed, it doesn't mean I know the next step. Staying just means I survived the day. Sometimes that's the whole miracle.
I stayed
Through unanswered prayers,
through mornings I didn't recognize myself,
through nights when nothing felt holy or safe, and still something steady kept me anchored inside. Not joy, not confidence, not triumph, just a quiet refusal to vanish into the dark. I stopped romanticizing escape and started respecting breath. I saw survival as sacred, not lesser. I stayed because God didn't need me certain or loud. He just needed me present, breathing, still here. I stayed
when living made sense,
when hope was quiet, when faith
felt fragile.
I stay because surviving is a kind of grace, because staying is louder than fear, stronger than God. I stayed when living made sense, and I'm still here.
I stayed
When living made sense, and that matters more than any story I could tell. I don't tell this story like triumph or victory, yeah. I tell it like confession, like a truth whispered in the dark. Sometimes living doesn't shine, doesn't shadow days. Sometimes it just makes enough sense to choose it again. I stayed when living made sense, and I'm still here.